Good evening, everyone. This is Pradeep Ambassador of Change from GETI, the Global Education and Training Institute of Lucknow. We are the premier institute in India for training teachers and principals, and not only just India, but in many areas in the world. We have many pre-service and in-service programs, and for more information on these programs, please go to 740-840-1000. Right now, you are on our disruptive education platform provided to us by our mentor, Dr. Sunita Gandhi. And on this platform, we have met with and interacted with more than 1,400 educators from India and all over the world. And this evening, we have for you Mrs. Sudakshina Gupta, Professor, University of Calcutta, Kolkata, West Bengal. Now, Professor Sudakshina Gupta joined the University of Calcutta in the Department of Economics as an associate professor in the year 2008. Before that, she taught economics, statistics, and other related subjects in undergraduate and postgraduate colleges since 1988. Just after finishing her post-graduation from the Calcutta University, she did her schooling from St. John's Diocesan and bachelor's from St. Xavier's College, Calcutta. She was awarded a PhD degree from Jadavpur University in 2002. Presently, she is a professor in economics since 2010. She officiated as the Dean of Arts Faculty, Calcutta University, and held the post of the Director, IQAC, Calcutta University between 2018 and 2019. She is the chairperson, UG BOS Economics, Calcutta University. She served as the head department of economics between 16 and 2018. She is a regular research guide in the PhD, MPhil, and master's levels. Professor Gupta has around 80 articles in English and 55 articles in Bengali, published so far in journals. She has edited books and conference volumes, magazines, newspapers, etc. A few more are in the press. Apart from that, she has presented around 40 papers, delivered more than 40 invited lectures in different seminars and conferences, which are not published, and has chaired many sessions. She has written and published 3 books, 2 with ICSSR assistance and 1 with MHORD assistance in English. 1 under the aegis of West Bengal government in Bengali, and edited 1 book in Bengali with UGC assistant, and so on. She delivers popular lectures and also appears on TV talk shows regularly. Her hobbies include Indian classical music and dance, games and sports, and creative writings in Bengali. Her favorite pastime is to spend time with the students outside regular classes. So thank you, ma'am, for being with us, and over to you. And she will be talking to us on the pros and cons of online education. Good evening,
Yes.
everybody.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you, Mr. Mal. So I'll start talking on online teaching, its pros and cons. Now, for the last almost 2 years, we all are in a peculiar situation since the lockdown was declared in March 2020. And we know that the country is passing through an abnormal situation, not only economically, but in all other aspects. And that is called new normal. New normal because we have to get accustomed to this situation now, though it's not a normal one. And one doesn't know when we will go back to the pre-new normal situation, which we used to call normal. So, or whether this new normal situation will become normal for us, that is a question. Now, like many other sectors, the education system also has been hampered for almost the last 2 years. And as we all experienced, initially, just after the lockdown was declared, it came to a standstill. and which was actually an unprecedented phenomenon because we didn't experience such a thing before. In fact, it all started before the lockdown was declared officially. The different state governments started to declare their schools and colleges and all closed. But that time, we all thought that it would be a temporary thing for just a few days, maybe 2 weeks or something, and then we will come back to the normal situation again. But the thing is, we haven't been able to come back to the normal situation as yet, though in some places in the middle we had some windows where we started with classes in schools. In West Bengal, we started with classes, the higher classes, 9, 10, class 9, 10, 11, 12, etc. But then again we had to close down. But the primary and the elementary schools or those classes are not yet open, so the children are growing up without going to school, just being at home and studying online, etc. So gradually, the system started to get accustomed to the situation, and we started to have distance classes in all the spheres: school, lower level school, higher level school, colleges, universities, etc. So the online platforms were in use. Actually, even before that, there were a little bit use of online classes, maybe between countries. Like people used to sit here and listen to lectures in delivered in the United States and in other places. But this became a regular thing, regular system for all of us after the lockdown. So we started with distance classes and we started learning about the new technology. We started learning about various online platforms, etc. And that is all right. But we have both good points and bad points, pros and cons of online teaching, as we all are experiencing now. For example, the hostels, the residential schools, the residential colleges, etc., are experiencing this problem. And even those who stay in hostels, many of them had to go back because of this endemic or pandemic or whatever you call it. So hostels had to close down and the students had to go back. Many of them have their homes in the rural areas where there is difficulty in connectivity is not that strong, because not only because of internet connectivity but also maybe because of lack of devices also. And that is just about the hostel residents, I have said. And even if we can reach them, or even if we can reach our students, it is very difficult to conduct practical classes in the labs. The laboratory classes are very difficult to conduct, and the mathematical ones are also difficult to conduct. Nowadays we have so much of new technology like whiteboard and so many things, so we had to get accustomed to all those things. Nowadays almost everybody is like used to, but initially there was this problem. So mathematical equations and laboratory classes are still being hampered. Like you cannot have practical class, you can just demonstrate through the meets, but you cannot make the students learn hand on. You cannot impart them hand on experiences. So that is being, I mean, that is a minus point that is being happening here. Not only here, I think in many other countries also the same thing is happening. So, as we said, many students in rural areas, they may not have access to strong internet connectivity. They may not have devices. They may not be able to buy data always. They may not. Many of them are poor. In fact, in rural areas, we know most of the poorer people are there. In fact, in the city areas also, there are urban slums and all where maybe they do not have enough income to buy this data, because this is a new thing that has been imposed on them. And moreover, many of the parents have lost their jobs also. So it is difficult, no doubt. And there are some data, like they say that the study by NCERT, it says that at least 27% students do not have access to smartphones or laptops to attend online classes, while 28% students and parents believe intermittent or lack of electricity is one of the major concerns hindering teaching learning, according to a survey by NCERT. So you can see 27% of the students do not have access to smartphones or laptops, and 28% of students do not have proper electricity connection and net connectivity, etc. So in all, it's more than 50%. In all, it's more than 50% of students who are unable to reach their students, reach their teachers properly to get the education. So it's almost, I mean, it's more than 50%. Another study says that only 8% of Indian homes with young members have computer with netlink, but there may be smartphones, etc. So only 8% have computers, and those who can study through computer, desktop, or laptop, or things like that. And especially now we can come to school education. Especially the school education system portrays a dismal picture, because we know that there are many kinds of schools in the country. Like we have the government schools, we have the government aided private schools, which are run by missionaries, as well as those run by public and private trusts. So many kinds of schools are there. There are elite public schools also. They are called public schools, but actually they are they are totally privately financed. So these are different, there are different kinds of schools in the country. And we all know about the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan. So there also under that, there are village level elementary schools, and this is a central government program. So we know all these things. I'm not going into elaborate description of this scheme, but this gives right to education to all. So this is for universal elementary education, whereby all children are supposed to get education free of cost, and if they study in government schools. So it caters to the below poverty level sections of society, especially to below poverty level sections of society, and it covers 2.04 lakh primary and 1.59 lakh upper primary schools throughout the country. So this is a huge number of schools where most of the rural poor, they go. And also in the urban areas, this scheme is there for the lower income group people. So what happens is, a majority of children, they attend these village elementary and primary schools, and also in the urban areas, many children in the slum areas especially, they attend these schools. So there is this economic divide. Economic divide is there because the haves, they send their children to the elite schools, and the have nots, they have to send their children to these schools. And there is this economic divide, and there is urban rural divide also, as just we have said. In the rural areas, mostly net connectivity is poor and all. And on top of that, we have a language divide as well. Language divide. What kind of language divide is there? We have vernacular medium schools, and we also have English medium schools. Now, vernacular medium schools, largely, they cater to the poor, while English medium schools cater to other sections of the society. Of course, there are exceptions, but this is a generalized picture. Now, in many cases we see that the content is poor in the vernacular langages the content is poor, and the net connectivity is of course not always available in the rural areas. Also the poor students, they may not be able to buy the data, they may not be able to afford internet connection, they may not be able to afford laptops, smartphones, etc. This is something which we see every day. In fact, in every locality this is seen. So all the economic divides, the rural urban divides and language divides, all these ultimately lead to the digital divide. Digital divide, that means we have these some people who are able to have access to the digitalized world, and the other section they do not have the access. uh, so we know that in many schools in urban areas are having online classes, but majority of the rural schools, they do not, they still do not have regular online classes. Sometimes I hear that they just maybe some of them give them some notes or materials through WhatsApp, and sometimes even that is not there, and the children, they are not being able to attend classes, and also many schools are closed. And in other places also, like in urban areas also, we see that very young children, they cannot handle computers, they cannot use mobile phones, so they are also not being able to be taught properly unless they have their parents sitting by them. So this is again a problem. This is a social problem, I think, because the mothers especially, and fathers also, they have to uh, be busy with their children's education in the daytime also, when they are having their classes, the small children. I know of a mother, a close relative of mine. She had to leave her job because she had to sit by her child while classes are on. So these are all added problems, external problems related to online classes. And in many households, there is no computer, and in many children are not allowed smartphones also. So this digital divide at the school level, we are not talking about the grown up children in higher education, but in the school level, where we need to impart them primary education, there only this digital divide at the school levels leads to a gap between the haves and the have nots. So it's not only that the children of the poor parents are being they are not being able to get proper education, but it is also that they are it's not only the poor parents but the children also. So two generations together, they are deprived of the proper process of education and all. But here is this is also true. This is also true here. This data that India's online education market is set to grow to US dollars 1.96 billion and around 9.6 million users by 2021. This was published in 2016. I don't have the latest data, but this was the 2021 estimates. It's only January 2022. So primary and secondary supplemental education will be the largest category. This was an estimate which was made in 2016. People did not know about the coming or the ensuing online education that will be in vogue then in 2021. But the question remains that what percentage will be able to access the system. And there is another data which the BBC says that with more than 630 million subscribers, India is home to the world's second largest internet user base. But connectivity is still an issue, especially since mobile data. This is another thing, because we don't have fixed line internet everywhere. So many people have to depend on mobile data. So that is again not a very reliable source of connectivity. So that also creates problem. Now, mm, school dropout is a very common phenomenon these days. Apart from the normal regular school dropouts, because of this lockdown and online system, many students are leaving their schools. This is also true. Many students belonging to low income families, because they are not being able to access uh, to the education system properly, so they have nothing to do at home, sitting at home, and many of their parents have also lost their incomes because of the lockdown. So many of them, especially in the informal and unorganized sector, obviously, so many of the students are leaving schools, and they have joined workforce also in the informal unorganized sector only at this age, 14, 15 years or so. And many teachers, guest teachers and ad hoc teachers or para teachers also, they have lost their jobs in many private educational institutes. Then there is a survey, and that made a survey in Karnataka and Haryana, and they found, it was in 2020. It is a bit old, but they found that many teachers, 1 lakh teachers and teaching staff have lost their jobs in Haryana and also in Karnataka. These surveys were done in these two states, and this was found that many of the teachers, even if they are proper full time teachers, many of them have lost their jobs. And we can say that actually uh, there is the online classes are not, or online teaching is no substitute for the for classroom lectures. They cannot substitute classroom lectures, because we, the ones who are experienced, who are used to teaching for the last I have been teaching for last more than 3 decades. So we understand that it is not substitutable. Classroom teaching cannot be substituted by online teaching, because there are these two things. You need to have an interaction with the students, and your body language, the teacher's body language, is very important to the students. It is imperative for their success, because the students have to see you in front of them to understand what you mean by what while teaching. So the facial expression of the teacher, the body language of the teacher, these are also very important. And when we are sitting in front of the computer, we are not seeing the students. If we are presenting something, it's only the slides which we are seeing. Even if we don't present, the students have to, most of the times they keep their video off, because of the data problem. So there is no one-to-one interaction also, mostly, but I'll always say that there are exceptions. And also between the students and the student teacher, the friendship and the interaction that should be there when one goes to school. The children are sent to school by their parents, not only for education purpose, but also so that they can mix up with others. They are exposed to the society. They become human beings, total human beings as such. But that is missing in online classes. Most of the children are growing up just on their own, sitting at home, and just looking through the mobiles and all. And if they do not have mobiles, they have nothing to do. So this is, a generation of students who are not getting their proper, not going to be grown up as proper persons. I have a fear, like this is more a subject of the psychologists and the sociologists, but this is what I feel. But of course, there are benefits also of the online teaching. because the technology which leads to the digital divide also is helpful in reaching distant places. Because if it was not there, say if it happened 50 years or so back, in fact we had epidemics and pandemics 100 years or so back also, when the schools and colleges had to be closed down. In fact, during the Second World War and all, also the schools were closed. So if we did not have the technology, we could not do whatever little thing we are doing now. We are reaching distant places, yes, but that would not have been possible without online teaching. So now lectures can be delivered in a faraway place sitting at home, and the students can also listen to them from their homes, even from the other countries as well. So the world has become small. That is because of the exposure, because of globalization and other things. That's a different thing altogether. Communication revolution. And also, this is something new that has been happening. If the online teaching could not be arranged for, and with the complete closure of the educational institutes, a generation of citizens would have been lost to the society, the economy, the country, and the world as a whole. So this at least we are having something. It's better than to have nothing. And online teaching, since the online teaching started, we have come to learn of so many things. The teachers, the students, we have come to learn of so many new things with the invention and usage of newer technology, like the online platforms, like sharing, the meets and all. So these are something all of us didn't know. So now we have also learned so much. And even the sick and the disabled can attend classes sitting at home. They don't have to come to the schools and the learning places physically. Like so many people are now down with COVID, uh, COVID virus, coronavirus, and they can attend the classes sitting at home. And online exams also, for online exams, so many new apps and programs and software have come out that it is really helpful. If one cannot go to the examination center, like it can be taken sitting at home also. In fact, so many new things are coming up. So we have come to the end of the lecture, half an hour I was told. So we conclude this way. We conclude by saying that online classes are no substitutes for classroom lectures for a variety of reasons, as I have already mentioned. They really are no substitutes. And most of the times, if you ask the students, especially the small children, they are not learning as much as their predecessors did going to schools. And of course, the mixing up of with the other people, other fellow students, making friendship, that is also a very important part of one's life. And the digital divide leads to discrimination and practical discrimination, haves and have nots, as I have already said. And practical classes based on laboratories are also very difficult to be held online. The interaction between the teacher and the students is a crucial component of teaching and cannot be replicated in online classes. Yes. And however, rather than having nothing, it is better to have online mode of teaching. Otherwise, we would have to close down everything and no education, and the education system would be just, closed down. Online teaching connects between teachers and students in distant places. So these are the benefits also. So in short, I discussed the pros and cons. In fact, all these things are known. There is nothing new that we could discuss now. But that is all that we are seeing, and the few data that I have given. So thank you for that, for being there.
Thank you, ma'am.
Now, of course, yes. Shall
Thank
I
you,
stop
ma'am, for
sharing
all
now?
that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that talk on pros and cons of online education. Ma'am, is there any solution to the have-nots? The people who do not have the cell phones and the uh,
Like,
laptops.
yes, the government is trying their best, and also the some NGOs and some missionaries and all, they have come out with distributing laptops and mobiles. Some teachers also are doing this for their students. So this way, this has to go on. Or it may be like you cannot arrange for a class in a distant places as long as this will go on, because the students should not come together. Schools are the most vulnerable places, so everybody has to sit at home and do it. That way, devices can be distributed, and it is up to the companies to give proper connections, net connectivity and all, fixed internet connectivity. That way. So I think it is being done. It is much better now than what we had 2 years back. Because
So
frankly speaking,
yeah, what would be the
frankly
role of the government in this?
the government has to come out. They may subsidize the net connection, etc., to the poorest section, so that they can afford. And subsidized means the companies have to be paid the subsidy again. So if the government can do that, and doles and all are being given, that way, for students education, especially for school children, for primary education, the government can come out with help, direct help like that also.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Good evening. And before we leave, I request you to watch our detox from our disruptive literacy movement by Global Dream, which has been an initiative by Dr. Sunita Gandhi since 2014. Uh, this is to ensure everyone's participation as a people's movement in helping our not so privileged brothers and sisters to get numeracy and literacy education. Uh, it is the duty of each one of us to help bridge this gap so that at least they're able to get some kind of education which will make them officially literate. So we have several talks on this every day. And for more information on this, for the talks that you would like to tune into, please go to 740-840-1000. So good evening, everybody, and good night and goodbye. See you again tomorrow. And yeah, thank you again so much, Sudakshina Gupta madam.
Yes, I'll just like to make a small correction that I'm not Mrs. I'm still Miss. I hope to remain
Okay,
so.
ma'am.
You have
My
mentioned Mrs.
sincere apologies, ma'am.
That's all right.
And how lucky you are! How lucky you are! You cannot be imagined.
Okay. Thank you so much
Okay,
for
ma'am.
inviting me on this platform. I
Most
enjoyed
welcome,
my
ma'am.
talk. Thank you. All right.
Good evening. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Yes.